Hello, my name is Stacy Moore, and today I'm going to talk about the role women will play in the Muslim Brotherhood as Egypt transfers authority from its democratically elected Muslim Brotherhood-led government to an interim government backed by the military on behalf of the populace who demanded Morsi's overthrow in a protest movement. It's very unlikely that Egypt will successfully transfer to a stable democracy without reconciling the Muslim Brotherhood to the political process. They have some 600,000 members and a very powerful ability to mobilize people. The Muslim Brotherhood is become marginalized yet again, their leadership imprisoned, and they're no longer able to participate in the political process. However, women could play a key role in moderating the Muslim Brotherhood and providing a bridge to other opposition groups so that the Muslim Brotherhood could then be reconciled with the interim government and participate in elections and become a positive source of change for Egypt, which is absolutely what the country needs. The Muslim Brotherhood has not in the past had a very positive impact on women's equality in Egypt. While they were in power, they passed laws in the Constitution that limited women's equality, with the only mention of women in the Constitution being that they have a role to play in the Islamic family. Within the Muslim Brotherhood itself, women make up 25 to 50% of the membership. However, the Muslim Brotherhood only put up 3 candidates out of the 133 that they sent towards elections for parliament, only one of whom actually won a seat. This has led the Muslim Brotherhood to lose very many women who could have been strong leaders for the party because they feel marginalized and unable to make a difference. So the Muslim Brotherhood faces 2 problems. One, that they espouse a view that they are holding women as equals, but that they do not allow women to participate fully and so lose the best and brightest. And they face a problem in that the lack of female participation within their ranks is making them appear much more radicalized than they likely are. Regardless of how the Muslim Brotherhood treats women within its ranks, you would certainly expect that the United States and other nations would have made major policy shifts throughout the transitions that Egypt has made over the last 2 years. However, the United States has not made a major shift in its policy towards Egypt during either of these transitions. Their goals have primarily centered around maintaining close ties with the Egyptian military by providing it with military aid to the tune of $1.3 billion a year. They also have a goal of promoting economic stability through diversifying the Egyptian economy and promoting civil society and equality via U.S. aid-funded programs. U.S. aid-funded programs, however, have only been allotted $580 million, which must also be shared with programs across the Middle East and Northern African region. Additionally, these U.S. aid-funded programs face difficulty within Egypt because the Muslim Brotherhood also passed laws restricting the ability of non-governmental organizations to receive funds and communicate with foreign governments and agencies. This led to Americans being arrested inside of Egypt for promoting democracy. Additionally, the United States has garnered much resentment from the average Egyptian on the street by placing conditions on its aid. These conditions primarily revolve around human rights goals and equality, but are often perceived as being invasive and seeking to interfere with Egyptians' internal politics. Other international actors have had much better luck than the United States in garnering support for their programs within Egypt. The EU is a good example. They are Egyptians' top trading partners, and they have set up very lucrative bilateral trade agreements. They also have action plans with specific guidance related to many different issues, ranging from things like democracy promotion, gender equality, environmental compliance, and agriculture. These action plans set many goals but place few conditions on aid and actually provide rewards for meeting the goals within the plans. This has led to a very positive outlook on the EU, who was, and their High Counselor for External Affairs was actually called to Egypt to help to mediate between the many different groups that were involved in the recent protest movement. Their High Counselor was able to talk to Morsi, the military leadership, the new leadership of the interim government, as well as many opposition leaders, and it helped them find a way to bridge the gap between one another and have productive talks. The UN, while you would expect that they would have a larger role in Egypt at this current time, helping to mediate disputes, has become less influential. They are having the same problem the United States does, and then their programs are primarily run through local NGOs, and they are focused on development, health, and gender equality, but without the ability to fully communicate and provide funds to NGOs, the UN becomes rather marginalized. The IMF is another agency that has drawn a lot of resentment from the Egyptian public, because in order for Egypt to receive loans from the IMF, they requested that they implement austerity measures, which had a very negative impact on the Egyptian population, in that it caused Egypt to slash its subsidies of basic staples like fuel and bread, rising the price for the average person and causing riots. Therefore, both Morsi and the interim government rejected these loans, although they were really able to do so because Saudi Arabia and the UAE pledged $12 billion of direct aid with no strings attached. And why would they do such a thing? Well, Saudi Arabia and the UAE are much culturally similar to Egypt than any of the Western nations are. The aid is been given primarily to support the military, whom both nations have had good relationships with in the past, and to promote Islamic governance. The military has already given Saudi Arabia the assurance that they will leave the references to Sharia law in the Egyptian constitution, thus ensuring that there will still be an Islamic republic in Egypt. There are really no formal policy solutions to Egypt's issues regarding, or in terms of what Saudi Arabia and the UAE wish to accomplish as a whole through this aid, but it would seem that they are primarily interested in maintaining other Islamic nations in the region. So we do have a set of very complex problems. There are many that have posited good solutions. In terms of gender equality, Beer has an excellent study where she looked at 179 countries and analyzed the relationship between the level of democracy and gender equality and development, and found that gender equality was very highly correlated with democracy and increased development. And therefore, I think it's important that our policies then are more focused on creating gender equality as a driver of other forms of development. Blades and Taruti did an excellent study on elections in Egypt, showing that the average Egyptian woman is much more willing to sell her vote at a cheaper price than an Egyptian man. Vote selling occurs primarily because the voter does not feel that anyone on the ballot will actually change anything for them, and so they might as well get the economic benefit of selling their vote. The exception to this rule was those people who were voting for the Muslim Brotherhood candidates. The Muslim Brotherhood was able to mobilize its constituents without buying votes, which was definitely a unique attribute amongst politicians in Egypt. Amnesty International has also suggested numerous reforms, primarily legislative reforms, revoking the emergency law, revoking the NGO law that restricts NGOs from working with foreign governments, and taking steps to increase freedom of speech and freedom of assembly within the nation. So if the interim government took those steps, they would certainly lay the foundation for a much freer society and a way for more political inclusion. There are also ways that the Muslim Brotherhood needs to change. Both Tariq Ramadan and Baskin urge that the Muslim Brotherhood begin to outreach to other opposition groups, and much like the Fethullah Gulen movement did in Turkey, they've garnered much popular support simply by working with other opposition groups. And Amar makes an argument for moderating Islamist groups, primarily by increasing female participation. He noted that participation of women in demonstrations directly correlates to a reduction in the perception of violence for those groups. And al-Mahdi notes that women often participate in politics on terms other than gender, and that would allow then, if the Muslim Brotherhood increased female involvement in politics, another bridge for them to reach out to other opposition groups. So our solution to Egyptians' problems are very complex. However, the new government should lay structural reform. The Muslim Brotherhood should certainly shift to moderate its policies. And the United States and other nations absolutely need to ensure that their aid is provided in such a way that it is most effective, which means that it must work to provide aid that prevents austerity measures and allows the new government some time to get its feet on the ground and create a stable environment for the Egyptian public. In all those things, women must be a part of them. The Muslim Brotherhood must be reconciled to the political process, or unrest will surely result. And without female participation and a moderating environment, the Muslim Brotherhood is sure to be marginalized, potentially banned, and left out of the political process. So again, women's participation is critical to ensuring the political process is fair and open in Egypt. Thank you.